Hello, it's Matthew here. We're just about to get started, so we'll just give a few more minutes for people to get online and settle down, and we'll get started in, say, a couple of minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. So. Okay, thanks everybody. We'll get started now. So today we're going to talk about wholesale and very much focus on how we did some modelling and how you can actually be better off in wholesale. So we'll get into a little bit of detail about that today. Before we get started, I'll just introduce you to our panelists we got here today. So myself, I'm founder and director of Flow Power. I've been in the business for over 20 years, trying to reduce people's costs. Over that time, I've spent a lot of time developing systems and trying to work out the best way to do things. We've also got Ella, so Ella will say hello.
Hi, I'm Ella.
Yep. So Ella's going to talk a little bit about the numbers and where they came from, and we've got Nathan as well.
Hi everyone, how are you? I just got a question for Matthew here. You say you spend a large amount of time coding. You're the CEO of an energy retailer.
Yeah.
What on earth do you spend your time coding on?
There's still an awful lot of systems to develop and a lot of things to happen. So I spend a lot of time developing, demand response systems, programming the black box, stuff like that. It's sort of a little bit of a hobby as well as something I really enjoy. So I always try to keep a bit of that going.
Now I can relate to that. I love Microsoft Excel, and while it's not necessarily coding, I have friends that go home and they play their Xbox on the weekend. I go home and play the Excel on the weekend.
Yeah, so. I'm probably one of the ones that prefer to be writing the game, not playing it.
Yeah.
So just briefly some housekeeping. We're going to run this session for about 45 minutes, 30 minutes for the presentation, about 15 minutes for questions. So if you've got any questions, just type them into the little screen on the side there, and we'll start to work through those towards the end. We'll also send out a copy of these slides in the presentation after the session's finished, so please feel free to send them around. So for those who don't know Flow Power, so Flow Power is we're an electricity retailer, but we're a very different type of electricity retailer. I often try to explain it that what we aim to do is we aim to give you access to all the same tools that your current retailer is using to buy your power. So we try to bypass the traditional model and give you direct control of what's going on. So that leads to many things we're going to talk about today. It leads to wholesale. How do you actually manage wholesale? How do you manage corporate PPAs and things like that?
Yeah, something that a lot of people say to me when we talk about linking businesses with the wholesale market. They say, oh, you're like a broker then. And the truth is, no, we're nothing like a broker. We are purely the link between the naked electricity market that the traditional gentailers are accessing and your business. And we use the national electricity market to bring those real prices back to your business.
To facilitate the whole process.
And make that transaction work.
Yeah, that's right. So just briefly, we'll go onto the next page and we'll see there that there's this is on our website. It just gives you, that 30-minute price that's there, that's what the whole market is paying for power at any point in time. Under wholesale, this is the foundation of the underlying price that you will pay. I guess the important thing that I always say when I talk about the spot price is that it's actually not a scary thing. What it is you're basically already paying wholesale. You're just asking the retailers to package that up into a fixed rate contract. It includes their markup, it includes their risk appetite, and that's what you pay. But as the wholesale market goes up, you eventually pay for it through fixed rate contracts.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that our customers pay. Their bill is settled every 30 minutes essentially.
Yeah.
But when you're going with a fixed price contract, you're taking all of that variation, all of those highs and lows, or potential highs and lows, the scary side, and you're evening it out over the course of a year. Whereas with a wholesale contract, you get to take the best of the lows and put in place mechanisms to manage that high exposure.
That's right. And we'll talk today about, this is all great, but at the end of the day, you need a benefit.
Yeah.
And what we'll try to do today is highlight that benefit for you. So.
And look, that was one of the things that attracted meter flow power as well is it's all good and well to talk about, you know, energy futures or the virtual energy market, but flow power is all about what electrons are going through your electricity meter and how does that impact on your business's energy cost.
Yeah. So today we're going to cover. We'll get into a bit more detail. We'll cover the market context where we're at and the opportunity that's there. We'll actually get involved with a bit of the numbers that we published in our recent campaign in the list, which Ella will go through in a bit of detail, and then we'll actually go through a bit of an example of how it comes out.
Yeah, a business that we're working with at the moment that's realised those benefits and real numbers we're talking to.
Yep. And then obviously we'll talk about next steps and questions of how you can actually get involved and answer any questions you've got. So the market opportunity, you've seen in the market a lot of changes over the past few years, and interestingly, I'd view that as the beginning of the changes in the market.
Yes, the future is inevitable.
It is. So we've had the retirement of coal-fired power stations. We've had a number of those retire from the market. Probably the most dramatic we've seen is Hazelwood and the impact it had on pricing. We know that that's going to continue with Liddell up in New South Wales, scheduled still to be decommissioned. We've got a huge number of increasing renewable projects coming online. We're seeing that happen right now. What's come online to date is nothing compared to what's about to happen in the marketplace. You've got all the fears in the reliability of the market with the South Australian blackout and the fears that could reoccur. We've got the uncertainty of energy policy with the whole MEG coming, going, and nobody quite knows whether it's really fully gone or
parts of it are going to hang around.
Yep.
We don't know.
Yep. And we've got the gas prices is hitting the media again as going back up again. So you've got a lot of gas pricing.
And I think it's fair to say that we've seen a lot of these issues in isolation previously, but this is certainly the first time in my experience in the energy industry that we're seeing all of these factors coming together in this perfect storm that is just perpetuating uncertainty.
Yeah.
And it's that uncertainty that's really impacting on the energy prices or the fixed rates that we're seeing.
That's right. So, and it leads to an increase in price. And what I'll briefly talk to, and I'll give you a bit of a highlight of where this where the potential is, I suppose, which will then come through with the numbers. But if we go to the next page, we'll see that we've got the probably the best example of the difference between what a fixed rate might be and what you potentially could get on wholesale.
Yes, yeah. So, and I think there's two very different images that we're seeing here. One of them is a real price that is driven by material supply and demand, and the other one is completely sentiment based.
Yeah, yep, that's right. So on this chart, what we've got here is the ASX futures price, which you can look up at any time, ASX futures, and look at that. It is probably the main price indicator that retailers use, that the big three retailers use to set their prices. It follows pretty closely. So as you're coming into, say, Q1 18 or something like that, the market will try to tell the market what they think the price is going to be, and that largely drives the fixed price contract market.
And it's a real it's a real tool in the fact that it is a virtual financial derivative that is traded between companies, but it's also very different to what you're actually seeing, the transaction between the generator and the customer.
Yeah. The next number below that, so in this chart you can see the 13.2, and then below that I've got 9.8. Now 9.8 is actually how the electricity wholesale market, the spot price market, actually performed in that quarter. So the difference between those is your possible potential by being on wholesale. So what we're often doing with our management of your site and helping you purchase from wholesale is trying to give you as much access to the 9.8 as possible.
Yeah.
That's one of our core goals. You can come to this market and you can just enter a swap at 13.2, and you probably still end up better off.
Yeah, you'll still
market.
And even so that's comparing a swap, so a market, a financial swap.
Yep.
A retail contract will likely still come up above that.
That's right, because they're making money, so they're marking up what they can buy from that market. But our goal is to not just get you to 13.2, but try to get you as close to the 9.8.
Yeah.
And even below that, particularly if you can bring in demand response and corporate PPAs, you can get well below that, very much well below that. So that's one of our goals, is to try to come up with strategies to get you as far ahead as possible. So you can just see from that it's very material. It's not 1 or 2%. Over the past 12 months, it's heading for that 20% sort of range of savings.
And it's a completely different way of looking at how a business purchases electricity as well. It's you're shifting out of that procurement cycle and into an energy management phase as well.
Yeah.
So it's about engaging with what is likely to be one of the biggest costs on your bottom line.
Yes, it is. So just to take the ASX futures one step further, we've got the ASX futures publishes and trades out a number of years in the marketplace. So what we've got here is we've just gone onto the website and we've just grabbed the current ASX futures pricing over the coming year. So you've got, well, probably highlight the Q1 19. So that's the quarter that we're heading into, Q4 18. I think we've started that one now.
We're just in just inside Q4.
Yep. But you can see Q1 19 prices are very, very high. So if you look at, say, Victoria, 12.7, New South Wales, 10.3.
Yep. And look, I was in South Australia yesterday and talking to customers who were even looking at 16-cent contracts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So quite high. We go into then I've got CAL. So CAL means calendar year. So calendar year 19, the futures price showing in Victoria at 8.9, New South Wales 8.4. And then it actually does drop off a little bit. And I think that's actually a bit of a reflection of the quantity of renewables coming into the market and the impact it has. But the thing to note with this particular chart, what I wanted to highlight is CAL 22, where as we go further out, there becomes less certainty on the price and it starts to move back up. And that'll be because of the uncertainty that far out in the market. I think Liddell was initially scheduled for 2022.
There's a coal-fired power station shut down potentially in there.
Yeah.
Well, and even at the moment, where the discussions that I'm hearing about that is there's nothing finalised about that yet.
No, either. No, there's not. So it gives you a bit of a view. We do have a little bit of a price reduction coming in the next few years, according to the market's perception of what's going to go on, and what actually happens will be something completely different. But I guess towards the tail end, as more uncertainty comes in, there's a view that it could shift back up. And got to also remember, this is basically people's opinion. This is not set in concrete. It's people's opinion. The market will obviously, whoever's the market that's setting these pricing is trying to make sure that they've covered their risk, they've covered the ups and mainly the ups.
Yes.
So that they generate a profit out of it. Historically, we know the spot will likely come in on average under these prices somewhere. Whether it's 5%, 20%, that's to be seen.
Well, it's just like fixing in, say, the interest rate on your mortgage or something like that. You know that you're factoring in a certain amount of variability into that, and so you pay a premium for that level of certainty. And I just also wanted to draw our attention to that quote that's on that page there. I really like it because, the electricity market in the eastern states is so huge that there is no one business. There is no business that's big enough to truly influence that supply and demand. And so as a result of that, the businesses, they're price takers. You're given a price and that's what you have to accept. But when you look at using the market to your advantage, you can shift that a bit. You can choose, no, I don't want to take that price. I can get a better price, or I can manage my usage around when those optimal pricing periods will be. So, and I think that's really the philosophy of Flow Power, is moving businesses from being price takers to price makers.
Very much so. Yep. That's very, and there are a lot of tools out there, which we'll cover a bit today, that you don't just have to buy from this market.
Oh yeah.
And that's the big change. So what we're going to have a look at now is we're going to get stuck into a few of the numbers from the campaign that we just recently ran. If you're not familiar with that, we ran a campaign in the AFR and the airport and a few other places. Was that right, Ella?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So in that, we made a few claims, which Ella's going to go through and talk about in a bit more detail.
Yeah. So we modelled the energy spend of 670 Australian businesses to see what could have happened last financial year if they had joined the list. And I'll touch a little bit later on the list, but the list is businesses that are already accessing the wholesale market through Flow Power. And we wanted to look at what if more businesses join this list. So I literally sat down with our data scientist here at Flow Power, and I had a list of 670 businesses and we knew what they were spending on energy, and we knew how much energy they were going to use. And we have that information because when we call people and we ask them, like, do you know you can be buying wholesale? To buy wholesale, you have to use a certain amount of energy. So we have that information. And when we did the numbers, they came out really well. And a couple of questions we asked was, what would these businesses buying power on the spot market, what would their savings have looked at? Could they have driven renewable generation investment if they had signed on to PPAs last financial year? And then what if we added renewables into the mix? What would that do to the price they paid? And would demand response help?
And I think that, look, legitimately, these are 4 questions that every business that's in the procurement cycle at the moment should be looking at. And energy procurement is far more than just a price on a tender at the end of the day. It's what is the broader impact of this on my business, and how can I change this price that I'm willing to accept?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then the analysis, 670 businesses were across Australia, weren't they?
Yeah, entirely across the NEM. And they were pretty evenly spread. We had a lot of businesses from Victoria and New South Wales, but businesses in every NEM state.
In every state, yep.
Yeah.
Except WA.
Yes.
And Northern Territory.
And that's not a state, Matthew.
Oh.
So and just to preface the numbers, we took averages across the Australian power market from the ASX Energy Futures, from AEMO data, and we also had this information reviewed by an independent expert. So the first number that I wanted to go into was that if these 670 businesses had been buying wholesale power, they could have collectively saved up to 97 million. And we calculated this simply by going to the ASX Energy Futures, looking at what price was predicted to do, and comparing it to the actual outcome of the market, which Matthew touched on, is the opportunity for businesses to access the wholesale market. We always encourage people to go to the ASX Energy Futures to look at what price is expected to do.
I think it's a point of distinction with Flow Power as well, is that people that I'm talking to that are in the market, they say, well, what's the best price that you can provide? Well, we don't provide the price, it's the market that provides the price. We pass that through. Yep.
Yeah. And when you look at historical data, you know what was predicted, you know what the price is, and it's very easy to see that many businesses would have been better off.
Yeah. We're very much we're just not like a typical retailer. We don't provide a quote.
Yeah.
We don't have generators, and if we ever did buy a generator, which we may, what we'll do with that generator is we'll sell it directly to you. Yeah. Like we're doing with corporate PPA. So it's a very different model, and it actually takes a bit of time for customers to understand that at times, how we operate. Very transparent.
Yes, that's the whole point of it.
Yeah. So the second question that we asked was, could these businesses drive investment in renewable power? And we found that they could drive investment in probably around 1,845 megawatts. And this is if these customers had been signed up to one of our solar and wind PPAs for more than half their power needs.
So just put that in context. That's Victoria is around about during summer 8,000 to 9,000 megawatts. So it's a significant quantity of load.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's a whole new power station, effectively.
Basically.
So why can businesses drive this investment? And it's because renewable farms, they need backing and they need certainty, and it actually provides certainty for the renewable projects, but also for businesses. So there's benefits on both sides, and the benefit for business here is obviously that they're locking in low transparent rates for a long period of time. Another benefit we have here is that it helps businesses reduce their carbon emissions. Many businesses are coming to us and saying, look, how can my business go 100% renewable? How can I get access to renewables. And thirdly, it can improve their brand. Many of their customers are demanding this, and it's something that they want to be able to offer.
And it's something, it's quite interesting to explore. Like, why is this price so low? Like, if the merchant market is trading for $90, $150 a megawatt hour, why are you able to offer me a price of $60 a megawatt hour, or sometimes even less? And the truth is, it's a completely different risk profile. You know, the main costs for a new renewable power station is your cost of capital, and with a marginal OPEX in there as well. And so the price is reflective of the cost that these developers are receiving, and simply the investors in these power stations are not prepared to take on that merchant risk. They much prefer to see a price certainty.
Price certainty. That's right. So they're out to make a reasonable margin over a long period of time, not actually get windfalls.
And and I get, when you see the types of investors in renewables at the moment, the big names in capital investment firms, it's understandable that they want guaranteed long-term returns for their shareholders rather than just that quick win there. The other thing that I really particularly emphasise about the importance of these developments too is it's a refreshed utilisation of often marginal farmland or agricultural land throughout regional areas of Australia. So you're bringing jobs into the country during the creation of these power stations. It's the economy in places like Ararat, for example, is booming because of the investment, because of just the tons of steel that's going into the ground there too. Yeah. So there's broader economic benefits than just the potential green benefits that are advertised.
One of the big things two things, just emphasise that if you look at the reasons people make this decision, there's multiple, but the fundamental one, as we've highlighted here, is the cost savings. I met with a customer the other day that just still had this belief that renewables were more expensive because of what's going on in the media, and it simply just isn't the case. They are cheaper.
Yep. Well, I always say, well, have you got solar panels on your house? And 9 times out of 10 people, I do.
Yep.
Why do you have solar panels on your house?
Yeah.
It's because of the price. It's cheaper. It affects your bottom line.
Yeah. The other thing that's exciting that I've seen starting to happen is, like, we signed up with Ararat Wind Farm. We've got businesses in Ararat interested in taking some output. It's another way that the local area can actually benefit from.
Yeah. And certainly the businesses that we've signed up, they're going and looking at the wind farm. They go and have lunch in the local pub and fill up their car at the local fuel station. And it's a real draw card for regional parts of Australia where you wouldn't necessarily expect tourists.
Yeah, they can businesses can access the power from Ararat Wind Farm without needing to have solar panels or anything on their roof. So that's through our virtual PPAs. So for renewable projects, businesses getting behind and signing PPAs and getting behind renewables means that there's certainty for investors, there's security around pricing, and often it helps the community that renewable farm is in. There's a lot of jobs, a lot of growth, and businesses can invest. You can invest in assets in your very own state if you want to.
Yeah.
So the third number that I wanted to go through is about demand response. So we looked at Q1 of 2018, and we looked specifically at South Australia, and if businesses in South Australia were able to power down at certain times over summer, they could have reduced power prices by 2.7 cents. And this is a pretty significant reduction. So there is definitely a role for demand response in South Australia market, and the 670 businesses could have reduced power prices for all Australians.
So it's really important just to understand what we're saying there. We're not saying those that participated in demand response get a reduction of 2.7. We're saying the whole state gets a benefit of 2.7 as a result of a few customers managing demand response.
And I think the next slide kind of really exemplifies what we mean by that. What you're seeing there is 4 spikes in power price in South Australia that occurred over last financial year there. And so obviously the spot price and the ergo market sentiment is driven by supply and demand. So obviously if you can make a move or step to shift that demand substantially, then therefore the future price that everyone pays is going to be much more favourable, because you're essentially taking that whole point out of the market and stopping the price from hitting those highs there. And even if you look at that price, like, they're not particularly volatile. They're not particularly high prices either. And we're talking just about 4 occasions over the course of the year too.
Yeah, it would be a matter of, I don't know the number of hours, but it's a matter of hours, not days of management. So
Yeah.
I think it was 6 hours all up.
Was it? Okay, so it wouldn't have been a lot.
Cool. And then the if businesses had been signed on to PPAs, the reduction that they see in their energy costs increases to 195 million, and that's because PPAs are offering those low rates, so they can really affect your energy costs that you pay really positively.
So just to put that into perspective, that's a $200 million dividend to the economies in South Australia, Victoria, Tasmania, New South Wales and Queensland.
So I wonder where that went. Anyone see the profit reports come out recently?
Oh yeah, no, it's, someone's making money out of it.
Yeah.
But look, at the same time, what we've just done there is it sounds crazy, but it's basically a double of the number that we originally put forward here. So we said, I think 97 million on one of the early slides. And now we're talking about 195 million, which sounds absolutely crazy, but we'll talk you through a case study in just a few minutes of a business that's actually been able to achieve similar savings here. So it sounds like a massive number, and certainly, as we said, some investors are making a lot of money out of this, but we'll show you how your business can similarly benefit.
Yeah. So the list is businesses that are already taking advantage of all the things that we've mentioned today. Some of them are on PPAs, all of them are on wholesale. Some of them participate in demand response. And I guess that the real question that we are trying to demonstrate here is that you should join the list. You should want to join these businesses and make a difference to your energy costs.
Yep.
Get your own slice of that pie.
Yeah.
It is worth mentioning that it is actually a limited commodity at the moment. We've got a certain amount of offtake that we've signed.
Yep.
We sold our in about 3 months.
Yep.
So we will sell this pretty quickly. So there is an element there that that it may not be here forever.
Yes.
So anyway.
Now we're already talking at the moment about looking at our current pipeline of customers and making some decisions of how that renewables should be apportioned.
Yep.
So I think, should we get into the case study, Ella? You want to pull that up and we can just talk through one of those. It actually is, so one of the businesses that's on the list there that you've just